Hello, listeners. Pay no attention to the loud buzzing you hear in the background. That's just us getting our matching tattoos, isn't that right? It stings, doesn't it?
It does. It hurts so very bad.
Yes, we're getting matching tattoos on our forehead, and they read, "Make sure Audacity's using the right mic, you talentless twonks." We're trying something new. Sorry, we missed last week.
Is that what we were supposed to be getting on our foreheads? I'm just getting imprinted the shadow of Batman's brow. I'm trying to make it look like I've been wearing the mask.
Oh, technical issues yet again. We recorded a whole bunch of stuff, and then realized that we plugged the mic in, but it didn't recognize it. I might have to turn the TV down. Actually, did we mention that already? How we hopefully have audio back in the videos?
Yeah, for a while.
I thought we did. At least, or I think maybe this was the video that we were going to discuss that. Because sadly, we lost all the good stuff.
We found that it was actually related to the switcher.
Yeah, so the HDMI splitter, which is odd. I think we discussed that when we first did this. If you want to start recording stuff, you can buy a $10 HDMI capture card. Those will work just fine. But don't buy the $10 HDMI splitters because they're crap. And that I don't get why there's a distinction, but apparently there is.
Indeed.
But yes, it was a sad deal. The audio we had for this, it wasn't just background noise. It was like the gain was weird, so sentences would get cut off in weird ways. So we're going to try our hand at a bit of the overdub because this is the first time.
You guys had a personal and up close and just nice, I don't know, maybe front row seat of our AC sound.
But that's been on before. They're not
sure, but
it's not new.
It's new when it's right next to your eardrum.
Oh, are you talking about on the original
yes,
audio?
on the original
yeah,
audio.
there was also the background noise and then the sentences getting cut off and nonsense. It was a frightful thing to listen to. I tried to fix it as much as I could and I couldn't.
This overdubbing is slightly disorienting given that we're
because we have no clue what's going on.
Right now we're just looking at the map repeatedly.
I think we talked.
What the crap are we doing? I don't know.
Oh, we did make that gag. I remember we talked about how every time we start, we say it's been a while, because it's always been a while for us and not for you. And then we even talked about how we shouldn't say that anymore.
At some point, we're going to be in that little round.
Little round.
What is it? The kind of center there, the gazebo-ish.
Well, yeah, way later in the game. That's
I feel like that was now, but
no, the restricted area. That's the final boss.
Oh well,
is up in that tower. But anyways, it was a sad day. We lost a whole bunch of good stuff. I wrote some of it down.
Really interested in the Gotham City Police Department.
Yes, well, this is of course where our next freeze mission is. But if I remember correctly, we don't do it immediately because we want to clean up some side quests. It was
probably a wise decision.
Yeah, so it was good stuff, and we're probably not going to be able to remember most of it. But on an upside, we might have some slightly more cogent sentences this time around
because
we're not being distracted by trying to play. Oh, anyways,
we're crossing our fingers for salience.
Salience? That's I'm not sure that's the word you're looking for.
Yes, it is.
I think that's just the product. I think that's just the process of being heavily salinated.
What? No.
And apparently we're going to stand and stare at this wall. Oh, man, this is going to be harder than I thought.
Okay, so speaking of staring at walls, this is a slight, if you'll allow me this slight variation. I was looking at a grouping of construction workers the other day and realizing that they spend hours staring at their work doing nothing. No offense to anybody that works in that field, but goodness sakes, you guys need to get to work.
I don't condone whatever he's saying. I can't corroborate this story.
No, it was probably...
I love construction workers, and the work they do is important.
If I could correct that, it was probably maybe two guys that looked like foremen, and they literally were not doing anything.
Well, that's what foremen do all the time.
Literally one guy put his tool belt on, talked to another guy for a little bit, and did nothing with it and took it off. It was like...
How long were you staring watching these workmen? What? You should have been the one getting back to work.
It was during lunch. I don't...
Okay, maybe it was their lunch. Maybe he was just, whoa, dude, we tapped that guy so hard he flew into the air. We got a good underbag shot from between the legs.
I still submit that this, more than just the actual gameplay itself as far as combat, this is actually quite a realistic, for the most part. There's not a lot of wire-foo in this, barring the
the occasional jumps 10 for 10 feet, but that's more of a programming issue. Well, I suppose it's a good credit to the game that it's all right to watch, even though none of us are playing it. It's a little weird, though. I think it's going to take us...
Very disoriented.
We're going to have to get used to this a little bit.
Discombobulate.
It's a sad deal, too, because we recorded like 4 videos in that one session.
Oh, that looked like something straight out of Fight Science.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that. What's that?
Oh, that was a great show. Oh, it was Deadliest Warrior.
I'm familiar with Deadliest Warrior.
It's kind of like that. It was kind of like that, where it was like...
Oh,
so Fight Science...
If I remember correctly, we're going to go find that pulsating tumor.
Fight Science was like... or no, I'm sorry. It wasn't Fight Science. That's a channel I watched. By the way, check it out. It's great. I'm trying to think of the name because it was around the same era as Deadliest Warrior.
Yep,
and
see?
basically...
We're going after the pulsating tumor.
Studying each martial art and how it was...
I thought that was Deadliest Warrior.
No, Deadliest Warrior was the one where it compared 2 different martial arts and would say who the winner was.
You're saying
at
this
the
isn't
end.
that?
No, this one was like...
Whoa!
It would like take Muay Thai, for instance, and it would like rate the actual pressure and pound for pound of the kicks and the whatever else.
But I thought I do seem to remember you showing me one of those episodes, because wasn't Capoeira, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Then I thought they compared like Taekwondo with Capoeira.
Well, they've compared quite a few because they were trying to figure out what...
Maybe that was just the one episode I watched.
Kick was.
Yeah, okay, see, I remember that episode. All right, we're going to destroy the Titan canister here. The question is, I forget, did we make the comment on his terrible bacon drawings? Every time he draws on the Titan canisters, the bat symbol looks terrible.
Don't... You're making him have a complex now.
Well, Batman's probably got...
He's already got enough complex about his
already got
brow.
some complexes.
That's really what he's drawing, is his brow.
He's drawing the eventual monobrow he's going to have. This was the point at which you remembered that we were supposed to actually save the mayor. All we did was beat up the thugs who were beating him up. We just left him there, though. See, there he is. Helpfully, though, he stayed on the ground and was like, oh.
He is very important. That's why he's the mayor.
The mayor was simply being an idiot. He's just like, oh, I'll just lay here for a while. Never mind, okay. Whoa! Oh, dear.
He's not using real words.
I don't think he's got a real face.
Before I give you the unibrow that you deserve.
Good golly, that's an uncomfortable shot. I'm going to get out our topics list just because I'm curious.
It's interesting.
I forget. See, I made very extensive notes because I did have to watch this one all the way through to confirm that the audio was truly buggered.
Where are they?
Yeah, but see, we talked about that before. This Batman just doesn't have the intimidation factor.
Yeah.
And it's no offense to Kevin Conroy, he's great, but I think that...
Part of it has to be that he's wearing those weird tactical gloves with the knuckle pads.
Well, in all fairness, the weird spiked gloves, even that Christopher... every time I try to say Christian Bale, I say Christopher Nolan.
Christopher Bale.
Christopher Nolan was wearing them too, probably.
While he was directing.
Yeah, well, I mean, you probably just told the prop department, like, hey, make an extra pair too. But, like, is there really a reason for those? I know he broke a sword with them, but I don't think that was accurate.
Oh, you're talking about the weird little things across his
the weird
forearm.
little... Because even Christian Bale
I thought you were talking
those.
about his knuckles. I'm talking about the
Well,
weird knuckle pads.
Well, you'd want those if you were punching people up all day.
Unless you were punching people up all day, you wouldn't feel anything.
Well, I suppose, but you'd want to protect your knuckles somehow.
I suppose if you're Bruce Wayne and you're trying to be inconspicuous,
don't
mind my busted knuckles.
It's going to be like, man, Bruce Wayne's always got some kind of weird hand problems. I don't think we're going to touch any of these topics because we're already too far into the video. I think now is when we go back to go deal with Freeze, which is, I was very sad.
Well, I mean, is there anything important that we cover?
Oh, we didn't cover much important. We mostly just waffled for a while.
Oh, this is the
us
video I
standing.
recall that we literally just almost
we really
entirely
didn't
focused on the game. It was
it wasn't even the game. We went off our topics quite a lot. New side mission. I don't remember that. I don't think we do that. unless we do. That's what's going to be interesting, is watching these back, we're going to notice stuff we didn't notice the first time. Maybe we'll get some better commentary on the game. I think
you're gonna be in line with those that were watching at home going, "You're supposed to get that side mission. Go back."
I don't think we do. I don't remember seeing that.
To all the completionists. I think we made the comment actually that it was starting to skits.
I'm having to turn. The audio's louder than I'm used to, so hopefully... Oh, here it is. Okay, we do the side mission. Undercover gadget upgrade. We do go and do this. I think what we said we were trying to do is build up suspense for the freeze fight.
Either that or this is when I was playing and I'm just going to jump straight into the water.
I think...
How prescient of me.
So did you... I don't remember if you started this episode or not, but maybe it is you. Yes. It's a shame that we're going to lose...
It seems a little bit like what I would do.
It's a shame that we're going to lose the freeze... we had some good discussion about the freeze fight while we were doing it, because this is that episode.
Well, I mean, we can just react in real time, I suppose. I mean,
yeah,
the best thing to
but
do
it won't
is
be
just...
as much... We won't get as much of our thought process. It'll be more reactionary, but...
yeah, I suppose that's true.
Well, I don't know.
I did recall that if it's the same fight I'm thinking of, it was very arcade-ish.
I don't know that we would use that term. I don't think I would.
Which fight scene is this? I remember a specific sequence in the game.
Well, we're fighting freeze, but it's not...
Yeah, but you compared it to like a...
Well, comparing it to arcade, and I forgot this is when we get shot up by dudes.
This is definitely when I was playing.
Oh, boy.
Because I do a dive bomb straight into nowhere.
Yeah, you have a weird obsession with those.
I think it's just because if I were Batman, I'd be doing a lot of that.
Just why? Just dive bombing randomly?
I feel like it fits. Bats do that, so...
Well, I suppose when they're eating insects out of the air. I don't know that it works well when you're a human about to
what more could you really compare
pile drive into pavement?
What more could you really compare these criminals to than insects that are needing to be consumed?
Wow, there, Mr. Andrew Ryan. It's a little heavy-handed.
Andrew Ryan doesn't have time for moves.
Oh man. Well, I'm just going to abandon the topics. I don't think we're going to be able to flow with them. We'll try to pick up a few as we get them, but...
I feel like we'll hit on
It's been a bit of a crazy week. Crazy few weeks, in fact.
That's going to be a commonality you'll notice throughout,
Well, I suppose. If you couldn't tell, we don't put a whole lot of effort... Oh, yeah, that probably was you.
Thanks for that.
You brought it up! You suggested it.
Heads or tails.
I do believe we talked a bit about I think we touched on the Batman villain conversation again, where we talked about sort of the breakdown.
We feel up a lot of things without actually covering anything.
Feel up is not the phrase
said
I
touched
would...
on, and we use that term quite a bit when really all we're doing is having brief brushes.
Feeling them up.
We're having.
We like to molest our topics. We corner them on subways, and then they call the cops, and we gotta run. That's why we never finish anything. Because the cops are always on the road.
Really took a turn.
Well, what else? You said feel up. Oh, I think we commented on the weird hand-to-ear...
Oh, yeah.
Comments like, why is that? Because, A, there's no buttons on the outside of his ear. Why does he have to touch his ear? Is he just forcing... Maybe it's his... The mask doesn't fit very well. He's trying to force...
Say that again, I can't
force his earbuds into his ear. But yeah, I think we touched...
thing's always falling out.
We touched on the... Well, especially that would be bad if it was inside there. And it would be like when your sock comes off in your shoe.
I've never had that happen.
What? Oh, it's awful.
Little flop sock? What? I only have that happen when it's like out of my shoe.
Well, no. Well, you probably have ready access to better socks. I've got... When you don't have the money to just go buying socks all the time.
Take with that what you will.
The elastic gets old, and then they no longer really hold onto your foot, so sometimes they just start to like, I'm on my way.
Just more of a sack.
Tell everybody I'm on my way.
On my way.
Oh boy, I don't remember. We talked about the villain composition of this game, and then we can't.
Is it about how?
Oh no, this is you. This is you.
I played twice, so keep in mind this is probably still me.
Well, no, you don't always do that because you thought it.
Yep.
Okay, this is definitely you. You thought the whole double play thing was patronizing. That's why we don't do that anymore. I offered to let you play twice for every turn, but then you thought that was patronizing.
Let the record show it is true that I am wildly unfamiliar with this particular game. I have never played it ever.
Well, true. You're just gonna.
I'm channeling Assassin's Creed here.
I was gonna say those very words because I'm pretty sure you said that in the original recording.
I did.
I'm not. We didn't even pay attention to the Joker phone calls last time, so there you go. Maybe this will turn out better. See, your problem is you never remember to hold A when you need to fly. That's the one thing that you always do.
Fly like the Batman fly.
Anyways, we discussed the villain breakdown and how we had questions about Freeze because we're about to face him, and I don't remember what they were. So whatever.
About the. Are you talking composition?
No, we touched on like the history of when he was introduced and stuff, but I don't remember how.
Oh, I remember briefly that we argued about his age, or not argued, but rather just tossed theories out because I remember we briefly talked about how old. We briefly talked about how old Batman was.
Oh, yes. Oh, good. This is one of the topics that I'm actually sort of glad we get to touch on it again because I don't feel like I touched on it very well. We talked about...
He's done his homework and he's left me to rot.
Wow. We talked about sort of how Batman became Batman and how long it took. You've reminded me. That was one of the things. We touched on that for a while. There is a video by the channel Imaginary Axis, which if you're a comic book fan on YouTube, you may have already heard of. But... I'll link to it actually because it basically describes the whole process that we know of how Bruce Wayne became Batman. Because his parents were killed when he was... I don't actually know how old.
Okay. What's with the Squanto on the side of...
Squanto? Am I going to have to bleep that? Is that a slur?
No.
I think it's a slur.
It's not a slur. Look at it. I don't think of Gotham.
I don't think any... a native person would appreciate being called a Squanto. I might have to bleep that. We'll get demonetized from all that money we're not making.
Are we just going to sit around here talking about the money we're not making?
All right,
yes. Go ahead, sorry.
Yes, so if you want to... It's an interesting history of like how Bruce Wayne became Batman, and we talked about it because... I made the statement that when Batman became Batman officially, he was, I think, in his like mid-20s, and you were surprised that he was that young. Because we talked about, I think, how the Christopher Nolan Batman Begins, makes him seem like he was older because he sort of spent...
Not by much. It wasn't
like... He seems like he was more shiftless for part of his life after his parents died, which wasn't the case in the comics.
But it also... Doesn't it make more sense on a psychological level? I mean...
Well, that he would sort of wallow a little bit.
I mean...
The idea that he would immediately, as a 12-year-old, be like, well, my parents are dead, got to become a vigilante. It's like... That's a tad precocious.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's a good video. He talks about like how he attended a whole bunch of universities and he studied all of the like forensics and criminal science and all the stuff.
Which I thought actually was it again lends credulity to the fact that it's not just like Batman woke up one day and went, now I'm a brilliant super genius that fights criminals and is able to handle pretty much anything on the...
Yeah, no, of course, it took a good deal of time. It's like, and of course, yeah, the martial arts training that he did in that same period of time. So when he officially becomes Batman, again, I don't know exactly. You'd have to watch the video, which is a good one anyways. But I think he's in like his early to mid-20s. And then we made, of course, the comment of what age he's supposed to be in these games. Because it seems like he's been Batman a while, and maybe it's just the Kevin Conroy voice, but he seems like he's old.
This feels like mid-40s Batman.
Yeah, well, see, that might be too old. But then again, I mean, I think that's at least how old Kevin Conroy is. I think he's older.
Well, see, I just have a good ear for that kind of stuff. You sound like you're 40.
I think Kevin Conroy's been doing the comic, like the original animation forever, so he's got to be getting up there. I mean, Mark Hamill's in like his 60s.
To be honest with you, it's probably just because I grew up with that Batman.
So you're saying he's old because you're old?
Well, that you could say it that on the nose, sure.
You're not Kevin Conroy old.
No, that's true.
But there
I'm
is
just
something,
saying.
the Kevin Conroy voice has a very, like, I'm an adult man voice.
Maybe he's trying too hard.
No, I think that's just Kevin Conroy's that stately. But yeah, I think at this, I would have to, if I were to if I had to peg the date, not the date, but like how old Batman is in this, I'd wager, I don't know that I'm not sure I'd go 40s, but like 30s, mid to late 30s I'd wager.
In this
Yeah.
rendering? No, I would at least go 38, maybe.
That's what I said, mid to late 30s.
Yeah, but
that 38 is literally right in the middle of mid to late 30s.
Yeah, but I'm thinking...
You're thinking late 30s, early 40s? So
further west.
So we're off by a 5-year margin? I don't know, because... I don't know. It seems a little too old for this. I don't know. But yeah, I think we talked about how Freeze...
I think we've said this maybe in another video, but...
Or perhaps in a Lost video.
Or perhaps in one of the Lost footages. The little bat ears on his costume in this particular rendering
very pointy and
are
large.
very tall. Like a little bit to the point
I think that's true to the
that's,
comics, though. Isn't that the case?
Maybe.
Well,
I mean, I know it gets
he's got some real great. He's got some real good antennas in there. He can pick up Cuba.
That's probably accurate.
I'm gonna have a donut. All right.
So this is where we start getting into the.
What?
Cool? That would not be your response. You came back. You're terrifying.
I think we talked about this dude's wannabe Mr. T hair.
I pity the me.
I'd pity him too. Looks like he did that himself.
He's got... Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's like, I want cornrows, but all I got's a razor. Alright, so here's what we're doing. We're picking up tech, and I think this is the last side mission we do before we go back to see
good.
Freeze.
This will keep my sideburns at bay.
Okay. I don't know where you were going with that.
It looked like a straight-up razor.
Well, the guy gave you his. He's like, clearly, I don't know what to do with this. So you should...
You should do cornrows, too, so I don't feel so stupid.
Hang on, are you calling cornrows stupid?
No,
Are you insulting
I'm calling that guy's
the
rendering or attempt at cornrows stupid.
I think we also... There's a Titan canister in the museum that we missed.
To call those cornrows is an insult to anybody that actually rocks correct and proper cornrows.
And to corn. Those are cabbage rows. Oh, hopefully we can conjure up some material that's as good as the stuff we lost. I think we're on a good footing so far. Oh, but I think now we're going to go back to Freeze and have the highlight of the game, which we commented on a lot, and most people have. It really is the highlight of this game is the Freeze boss fight. And I wish I could remember more of what we said about it, but I can't. Joker's calling us a lot more than I remember. Whoa. Is this still you playing? You are channeling a bat.
That's all I'm trying to do.
I'm trying to get into the bat spirit.
I think I may have made a snap judgment, an unfair snap judgment to the Bank of Gotham's face.
Talking about the Squanto.
Well, it came a little closer, and then it started to look a little bit more like a Javier.
Wow! That's just...
I'm using generic names. That's hardly an insult.
I don't... It's an insult to assume that there's any Indians out there named Squanto.
There was.
I don't think there are still.
Maybe.
I would like, on behalf of my colleague, to apologize to the native population. I don't endorse the statements he's making. What did we talk about? We talked about... Oh, there's a question. A minor one. We talked about... we've had several of these screw-ups, as a matter of fact, where we've lost either footage or audio, or sometimes both. But the reason... Normally when that happens, we just abandon it and like, we'll play it again. But we couldn't really do that with these because this is a plot-based game and we had already moved on. So it was like we could either just skip these and have people question, or we could try what we're doing. But we did make one comment about the process of recording, and it's a good question. Whoa, we're getting shot.
Oh, this is the episode we dedicated an entire, we almost had the whole video talking about the technical side of things.
Yeah, we did do that for a long time.
See, I felt like that was pertinent tangent.
Even in that video, I was going, why are we talking about this for so long? Because it was like 40 minutes.
I'm going to probably go
we'll try. We're going to
rescue
it'll be relevant when I say what I'm about to say. Because the question we had is, we always never know what phrase to use when we talk about...
We always never... Oh, dang it.
We never know what to call what we're doing in terms of like... when you say something on... Because we'll often say the phrase on camera. But that's not accurate because there's no cameras involved. And then on mic, we talked about how on mic doesn't sound right.
I believe I made the comment that that's what I feel like would be.
No, because then we also made the comment of calling it on air. And the problem is on air. Oh, that was weird. I don't know why we did that. On air implies that it's live, but on mic, I think is more of a technical term than anything else. You don't normally say something's on mic. So I don't know. Is on air? I think we talked about it. I think we decided that it was on air. But sadly, we lost all of our air. We are now suffocating. If you're hearing this, you can tell.
Yeah.
Oh boy, I forget what it all was, and I'm sad because I did actually think some of it was pretty good.
Well, I'll rescue it.
Oh wow. Go ahead then. Rescue away.
No, I'm saying I'll have to go back and actually... I don't know. I mean, because I felt like some of that... The technical side of things, I feel like to some might be interesting as far as...
Well, we touched on the HDMI versus the splitters and the capture, so carry on from there.
Briefly talked about the fact that HDMI, as far as HD versus... or 1080p versus 4K is not... Unless you're...
Zaz! Do we actually get to do this one or not?
Unless you're... I feel like we did Zaz.
Oh, good. I like Zaz. It's definitely weird. I don't know why we paused for this long. That was a very long pause.
I don't know. Mr. Krabs, I feel like...
Oh,
I don't know.
boy.
But I do know that we talked about
I think that was you again.
Basically, the idea that unless you're standing
right there,
right up to the screen, it's really not much of a difference.
There's Zaz. My flesh is begging.
The noticeable difference between 1080 and 4K is...
I made the comment, I believe, that if you're like a nature channel, if you're like the Discovery or Animal Planet, then yeah, it makes sense that you're going to need that kind of high resolution. But no one on YouTube. If you're a YouTuber, I don't need to see your pores that well.
That's what I'm saying. It's nominal at best. It's not... Now, the difference between like 4K and 8K is significant, but that's, again, you're only going to see that at like a concert level. Like, I need to have the people in the back nosebleed.
That's like if you're watching a football game, it's like you got the blimp camera and you could zoom in all the way into a guy's face from that distance if you've got that kind of resolution. See, even now the tech stuff doesn't hold any air.
Well, it
Whoa,
did.
now that was a ragdoll.
It did. Speaking of not holding any air.
Ooh, hello.
What good hang time, huh?
Jazz is a creepy man. We
I
made
feel
jokes
like
about him too, and I wish I could remember them.
I feel like we had a larger discussion that seemed like it fit, but I mean, at this point, I'm not gonna.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Push it through.
I don't remember. Let's just
not gonna march it through like some sort of stormtrooper.
Let's be spontaneous, and we'll just ditch the topics, and we'll start afresh, clean slate. Talking about Zaz. I was just about to say I wish I could remember the jokes, but clean slate. This isn't. We're overdubbing this. This is live. What are you talking about? We have nothing we're trying to live up to. We always live in the present.
There's no more precedent. You set it up as
present.
No, I'm saying the precedent of
yes, but we're living in the past now. We gotta move forward.
Somehow I've rewinded. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna jump over here.
No, you died.
No, I'm saying if we're pretending like we've somehow time traveled, and I'm still back at last time I was actually playing this.
Yes.
Sure.
Oh boy.
He's just gonna blame any time that Batman does something stupid. He's gonna be like, "Yeah, you were definitely playing right there."
That's exactly what happened. And every time Batman screws up, it was you. Everyone knows I'm great at this game.
I do remember that we actually dedicated a great deal of time to. Well, not a great deal, but I mean,
living in the past. Move forward.
It was a little bit of time to the Zaz mission. I mean, it was...
Well, because we failed it several times. That's why we failed it a couple times. That's why it took so long. Oh, yeah, I think we talked about what's with the weird padlock around his neck. I think that was a topic. Because the question is, obviously, if you're like marking yourself up after you kill people, that's definitely a little unstable, but that's like at least on brand for a psycho serial killer.
Then what did he do with the key is the question.
Yeah, well, and why did he do it at all? Is my question. Padlock around his neck because he what? I don't know what the purpose of it is.
See, this kind of stuff doesn't really work anymore, and I
Padlock
don't think
stuff or the serial
the
murdering?
whole telephone thing, and I don't think I brought this up in the
payphones?
original.
Yeah, they ain't no payphones anymore.
Sherlock does this as well, and maybe it's more of a thing in London, but I just feel like, no, it doesn't work anymore. In our modern context with cell phones...
I have not seen a payphone ever in like probably 10 years.
See, I've seen payphones, but it's been a long while.
Well, obviously I've seen them too. I'm not saying I've never seen them. I'm saying I haven't seen them recently. Dudes with guns up here. This is you again. Whoa! That was a rubber band ragdoll. He like shot out.
I'm going to take this padlock.
That knife is very obviously dull. That is a prop knife.
He forged it himself.
No.
Out of a padlock.
That was what he was before he became a serial killer. He had a weird obsession with padlocks. Everyone was like, all right, well, I guess he's harmless, and then he wasn't anymore, and then...
And then the joke was on them.
Egg on my face, and blood. Now there's a reference. Gold Star... Oh, that's one of the other one we talked about, is the Gold Star system. We're going to do that. Once there's enough people...
We're going to do that.
Once there's enough people to actually comment things worthy of gold stars.
We will actually give out gold stars.
Yeah, I think you can do that. You can comment emojis, so just do a little gold star emoji and perfect. Then you'll be important and everyone will love you.
That is a lofty goal for somebody watching this video.
If you're watching us, you're not important at all. No, but I mean, it's if, you've had your validation from the internet. And then you can feel better about yourself.
That's really all that matters in life, isn't it?
Yeah, well.
No, kids.
No, it's actually not.
Not at all. Not that at all.
Whoa, what's with Blendy? I don't think I know.
Blendy?
That was totally...
You mean Bendy?
Was it not Bendy?
It's Bendy's other cousin, Blendy. He just carries around...
I thought it was Blendy.
What is he going to do to my blender?
Well, why would Bendy be a better name? Well, he's going to do some yoga to you? There we go. We got it this time. Oh, okay. We probably talked all over this last time.
By the end of this day, you're going to be in the sunlight serenade before you know it. Just get into the... That could go digress quickly.
I think it already was. Oh, boy. What's been going on? Since we got nothing else to talk about, we're abandoning topics. We're all fresh and in the moment.
Yep.
So,
fresh and new.
Life's been good, huh? You're feeling a little sicky, I can tell.
Good isn't necessarily the word I would use.
Well, okay then. Expound. Reveal your secrets to the 5 people who watch this.
Well,
one of whom is you.
I suppose it's a little
personal. Are we
nihilistic of me to say, but I just feel like it's been a little bit not great recently.
Well,
obviously I'm sitting here sick, and that's not my favorite. Fun. But last week I wasn't, so there you go.
You took your wellness for granted. Ain't it always the way?
Well, that is true.
I suppose. I haven't been doing much. In fact, I haven't done anything at all. I suppose we could talk about some culture. Have I been cultured lately? I'm not sure that I have.
You uncultured swine.
What have I done? I feel like I've watched some things. Oh, well, we're going to branch out. This was a topic I had saved as a future thing, but guess what? We're doing it now.
Do you really want to do that?
We're living in the moment. No more past. I have no past.
I never look back. Nothing distracts from the now.
Yes. I watched a pair of films. They went together in a way. Did you know that? Wow, I said our train of thought would be better, and it isn't. So we can't blame the game anymore. It's just clearly me.
Two films.
Did you know that The Secret Life of Walter Mitty is not a recent film? Not at all. The original film was from 1947 and starred, of all people, Danny Kaye. Good old White Christmas. I forget who he plays in that. He's not Bob Wallace. He's the other guy. Davis, I think. But yeah, Danny Kaye was in the original Secret Life of Walter Mitty. And I watched that this week after I learned that. I was like, wow, I didn't know that movie was that old. So I decided to watch it. And it's an interesting film. It's definitely old. But I still kind of liked it. It's more slapsticky than the modern one. But I thought it was sort of a fascinating comparison because on the broad level, they are actually they follow each other fairly closely. But in sort of their own time period accurate ways.
What's different about, what do you mean time period accurate?
So basically, in the original, they're both about a dude who daydreams too much and is a little bit of like a sad sack, like he never stands up for himself because he's always kind of shy and timid, and that's why he always has his daydreams and stuff. Both the remake, the 2014 with Ben Stiller, and the original do that. But, goodness. The original is a lot more like because basically, on the broadest level, if you've seen either movie, which you should. If you're interested in old movies, this is one to watch, and I think everyone should watch the remake with Ben Stiller because I thought that was a very good movie, actually.
It's a fantastic.
But on the broad level, it's sort of sad sack kind of guy, too timid to stand up for himself.
It sounds like the second one was more of a spiritual successor.
No, it was definitely it was a reboot, hardcore.
Really?
It was it's just a remake, but it's a period appropriate remake. They change it to fit the time.
Sure, okay.
Because in the original, he's this sort of daydreaming guy who's got sort of a relatively boring life, and he gets sucked into a sort of adventure. And that gives him confidence, and it's sort of
Jumanji type of.
No, not like the
I'm
original.
Joking.
Like
you said sucked in. It just.
Well, yeah, like the remake, he sort of gets himself involved in a sort of adventure that gives him confidence, and it sort of makes him a more. I'm not sure what you would call it, but a little bit more of a. Confident. It kind of makes him more of a well-rounded person. That's a good word. But in the original, it's a weird espionage type mystery he gets involved with, where there's a murder and stuff, and it's like this is very 1940s.
Yeah.
It's like it, and then he yeah. Oh,
we were looking at how many of the side.
Yes, we finished off the iceberg stuff, and we're doing I think we commented that the reason we want to do the side missions before is that once the game's over, I think we've talked about this, you can't do some of them. Like, I think the acts of violence stop, and I think the Zaz ones might even stop. I might be wrong about that, but some of them are locked off once the game's over. So you have to be proactive about that.
I feel like we ended up arriving at Jumanji last time somehow, and I don't know how. I
don't believe we did at all.
Are you sure?
I really don't think so. But yeah, it's a little more. It's definitely very pulpy. Because that was the day of the pulp action stuff, and in fact, I thought that was interesting. Is that in the original? Oh, we commented on that guy. I know we commented on him because
I tried to fight him at one point.
Because we were annoyed by the fact that no amount of body armor.
Find out who's fighting at this point.
Yeah, we're gonna. I remember that we commented on the fact that no amount of body armor is gonna stop a 300-pound man falling from the sky from killing you instantly. Like, I'm sorry about his little marching band hat, but it ain't gonna make a difference. Look at that thing. Whoa. Okay, apparently an electric shock will knock him on his butt, though. But yeah, in the original, he's actually a pulp writer for like a publishing company. Like he writes pulp magazine stories, like back in the day when that's how they were done.
Right.
When books were actually written chapter by chapter in magazines.
Which I feel like would be a more interesting approach.
Ooh, I don't know
I almost
could
wonder.
Get behind it.
It's not that I would get behind it, but I would be interested to know how it changed novel.
Maybe serialization in that. It's
serialization, but not just that. But even the story is less. It's more progressive in that you could, in the same way, like a great series that actually is like in development. can change and flow as the story progresses. You know, if they
arguably a well-written book would do that too.
Well, yeah, but I mean, there's not
because it's not written all.
There's not an easier way of, or there's not quite as easy a way of interacting with your audience in real time. I mean,
I suppose you'd be able to actually respond to stuff and that. But yeah, that was an interesting plot point. I just found that the whole thing was a little too pulpy. Not to say that I didn't like it for this reason, but it was a little too pulpy and a little too slapstick at times. But then again, it is Danny Kaye. I mean, that was sort of his thing. That was one of the reasons I did decide to watch it, because I was like, oh, I like Danny Kaye. Which was interesting. I don't know why I thought that, because the only thing I've seen of him is White Christmas. But I guess I like him so much in White Christmas that I was like, I'm willing to say I like Danny Kaye. Yeah, it's a good film, White Christmas. Yep. But anyways, it's a little slapsticky, but I think it's
White Christmas is? Oh no,
no, this.
Yeah,
because it's still Danny Kaye.
Walter,
we're talking about Danny Kaye.
Yep.
But it's charming enough, and I enjoy it. And I then later that same week decided to watch the remake again because it's been a while since I've seen it, and it was an interesting sort of film digest. And I think the one conclusion I took away from it is that 70 years should be the minimum limit of how old a film has to be before you can remake it. Are you listening, Disney? 70 years, not 5, not 15.
Pull it from the vault.
From 1947 to 2014, that's an appropriate gap to remake a film. Because I think I sort of thought to myself, that's film as an art form has changed in that period of time.
Well, and you're distant enough that not everybody remembers the original on a nostalgia level.
I suppose, although that I don't think is even relevant.
You're not fighting that uphill battle.
To me, I think it's a matter of it takes the same story, but then it's of course different because of the age of cinema. Cinema has changed since the 1940s.
Well, that's true.
And you could argue cinema's changed.
People actually went to the movies as like a day. Like they would dressed up to go to the movies.
Well, people got dressed up to do anything back then.
Well, that's true.
It's just the thrill of being alive, I guess.
Perhaps we should return to it.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't like suits very much.
Really?
No.
I'd wear a suit every day.
I find them a little uncomfortable.
What suits are you wearing, bud?
Well, you said we talk as we sit on a couch wearing pajamas. I mean, it's like, of course.
What are we talking about? I'm in a 3-piece suit right now.
Yes, it's weirding
double-breasted.
It's weirding me out a little bit. The top hat's causing a glare. But anyways,
you make me sound like the Gentleman Gazette guy.
Oh, whatever his name is.
That's a great channel, by the way. If you can get over the foppery.
Wow! No offense to whatever his name is, foppery's a little intense.
No, it's not. That's a fair criticism. He's a little...
Well, I don't think foppery is a positive thing.
It's not a negative thing. It just means you're really uptight on fashion.
Well, I suppose... I don't know. I wouldn't ever want to be called uptight, but I guess that's more of a personal thing. Anyways, that... I think, like, film, obviously some people are going to be like, oh, films have changed since the 90s. And, like, yeah, but not that much. Like, film hasn't changed so drastically in the 90s that remaking the exact same film with the exact same plot points makes much sense. Like, you know, if anything, it makes less sense when you do something like... I think this is what we also did, is we harped on Disney a lot in our talk. But when you do stuff like that, like what Disney does, where you go, where it's like, okay, we're going to remake Beauty and the Beast, and we're going to make it pretty much exactly the same, except it's just going to be live action. And it's like, everyone remembers the original, dude. You're doing yourself a disservice.
I so wanted Beauty and the Beast to be good because it's one of...
It's one of my favorites. The original is. It's one of the best, if you ask me.
Yes, because I feel like Belle is the best princess, and that.
There we go. Now we know what you like.
What? I don't quite know what to say to that.
I'm not saying it's a negative thing. I would agree. I think it's one of the better films.
I think
it's my favorite of the. What do you call them? The what do they call
classics
them?
Or
no, but they have a specifically name. They call them the Masterpiece Collection. Yeah, so, it's my favorite of that era.
I mean, see, for me, it's not even the way she looks. It's the fact that she has the best plot, like story. It's like it's very much a coming into
it's
her.
Archetypical.
Jordan
Peterson's talked about that.
I mean, I wouldn't disagree with you that it's archetypical. I just think,
in fact, we could ruffle some feathers if we talk about if we delve into Jordan Peterson's opinions on it.
I don't know that I'm familiar enough
He
with his
actually
opinions. I would
makes-
imagine
yeah.
they're very
I think he's-
Jungian.
No, well, duh, it's more Jordan Peterson.
Well, but outside of that, I mean, like Young obviously is,
He talks
is notoriously
he talks
famous
about,
for talking about.
He actually talks about
a
how it
tragic
is
hero.
it's the ideal. He often compares these two films. The Lion King is the ultimate masculine, archetypical story. It's the young man, having to fill the shoes of his father, and overcome his own sort of immaturity, because that's exactly the plot of Lion King. Is he, spends his time. His father dies. He runs
and
away.
self-efficacy to a degree. I mean,
he becomes a sort of immature teenager. We sort of live in this almost. I was about to say Epicurean, not Epicurean. What's the brand of philosophy that's all about pleasure?
Yeah,
hedonistic.
Yes,
this sort of hedonistic fantasy, and then he learns that it's like, no, there's people who are.
Then he learns the horrid truth.
Yeah, it's like he realizes, no, I've got to step up and be a man and fill my father's shoes, and he contrasts that to say, that Beauty and the Beast is the sort of quintessential feminine archetypical story.
Yes,
which is to use the terminology of the movie, it's sort of the taming of the beast in a way.
Just kidding.
Of course, you're going to go there. Where you're going, it's sort of like if you've ever read. He makes the comment that if you've ever read female romance novels, which you probably shouldn't if you're a dude, but if you have, it's like, why is it always vampires and pirates and werewolves? It's like there's a degree. There's a degree to which there's like. I actually think one of the better films that portrays it is, of all things, Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. To bring back another old movie.
Yes.
Where it's like there's a degree to which people, and the reason we talked about ruffling feathers is that a lot of modern feminism, a lot of modern feminism is kind of against this idea that like, women are the things that keep men in line.
Well, but it's not just modern feminism. It's modernity as a whole is now saying somehow that there's not, or rather they're resistant to.
Well, they're resistant to gender roles, as they would call
archetypes. Them. They basically say, it's what is it called? It's suppressive.
Well, gender roles. It fits people into molds, which isn't exactly.
That's oppressive. Even they didn't go as far as to say oppressive, which I feel like that's a little strong.
Definitely too strong. But it's like I almost don't know that Seven Brides for Seven Brothers could be remade today, because I think it would be a hot button. People would be opposed to it because they're like, it's like it basically says that a woman's role is to be the mother of the house and to civilize the savage man, but in a way that's like, that's not strictly the. I think that's more negative, because I think the point of the film is she makes them all better people. Like it's not like she's just
arrogant ridiculousness.
It actually. I mean, he makes the comment a lot that the single greatest civilizing force in all of humanity has been women.
Well, that is true.
Because it turns out
Jordan Peterson is actually quite the feminist in the proper way you should be.
In the classical sense.
Exactly.
In like the actual suffragette equality Declaration of the Rights of Women sense.
Spoiler alert, so am I.
Well, so is literally every sensible person. It turns out that was actually a pretty... we've had the original feminist movements were quite necessary. And they brought about the kind of change that we needed, but we've got it now. And nowadays people rebel at those very things where it's like, Seven Brides for Seven Brothers is just about a woman.
That man's just listening to our conversation.
Going, what? You guys are gabbling about old movies and feminism? I don't want to be a part of this. Can I just go fight Freeze? That's what we're about to do, though. I don't know why we're sitting around being...
Talking about...
Yeah, I don't know why...
Well, I was going to say, I don't know how far we're going to go into that particular topic. I think I'll save it for later, because there's
why save it for later?
Well, there's a worthwhile...
Well, we're talking about Freeze. We go through this fight several times, if you don't remember. It took us quite a while.
There is, outside of obviously the inspiration for a lot of Jordan Peterson's kind of foundational philosophies on psychology, I would argue are from Jung, even though
Well, because
obviously
it's very much
he's
about the archetypical narratives.
Right. Well, what I find interesting is that really comes back to Jung's understanding of dreams and the collective subconscious. I mean, the idea that that's misconstrued because a lot of people somehow think that it's like Zen, like the collective.
Well, if you've heard some of Jung's commentary, he was big into Eastern.
Yes, of course. I'm not
philosophy.
saying that it's disconnected from that, but what I am saying is I think what he was getting at was that the things that society as a whole decides you ought to suppress or put down are the things that then become your shadow or whatever, because the fact that your ego says, well, it has to be down there. So I think I
think last time we commented on, to get back to the game for a second, we commented on Freeze's sheer audacity to make 2 versions of the Cure just so he could smash one of them in front of Batman when he came. Like, he could have just made one, right?
Well, but
he decides to make 2 just so he can make a point. Look at that donk.
Jumping.
That was some bat butt.
Jumping back to Megamind, it's the whole
what?
You're a villain, all right, just not a super one. What's the difference? Presentation.
That's a great movie. Now, if I remember correctly, we struggled quite a bit in the beginning of this fight. I think this was me playing because I was trying to do my corner takedown, and I remember it not working for me very many times. The freeze fight
is one of the best.
Is really one of the best, and this is why. And I suppose we might put a pause on because that was the time he literally just walked right in front of me, and then I walk away for no reason. I remember struggling and being quite embarrassed by how this fight went at first.
He is for sure playing in this point. There's no shirking that off on me.
Wow, sure. I'm not perfect at this game. But I do recall that I tried to do this corner takedown several times and it never works. And then he's like, "I saw you, dude."
It's because of that
bat
life-sized donk.
Life-sized? Pretty sure everyone's donk is life-sized. Well, here we go. We got a final hit. But this is why the freeze fight is great, is because
he uses his donk.
Right, it's because of that bat donk. But it's because you have to. I mean, we're about to demonstrate. We just did an over the ledge takedown. We dropped down from above on him, and because he's freeze and because he's one of the few Batman villains who's actually established to be as smart as Batman, he's like, I know your tactics, so you're not going to be able to do that again. And that's what I like about this fight, and that's why it's good, is that it's not just interesting on a character level. It's interesting on the game mechanics because you have to use a different attack every time. Because of the fact that it acknowledges that he's smart. And he's going to adapt his strategy to yours. So now, once again,
Now we're looking at Freeze Donk.
Yeah, Freeze's donk is not quite as impressive because the suit kind of gets in the way. I mean, I suppose if you like mechanized donk.
He is quite... You're now speaking to a sect of the internet that we don't want to speak to.
If you're into mechanized donk,
then take it someplace else.
We're not the place for you. But anyways, it's like now he's venting. You can see he's sort of got the weird rocket boosters coming off he's venting coolant or whatever.
No,
it makes an interesting fight, and we'll be here a long time. So we can get back to the topic now. We just wanted to comment on it because it's a good fight.
It is a great fight. And basically, it's just a sequence of us trying out each method of taking him down.
And failing
each
several
time.
Times.
He then adjusts, and you have to do it differently.
Which is why it takes us so many times, because we ended up forgetting several of the moves we could do and trying to think of things we hadn't done yet.
Anyway, back to Young. No, but what I was saying was this is a significant part of, I suppose.
We're talking about Jordan Peterson. Why are we talking about Young?
Well, because I think that there was such a significant influence.
Well,
yes. It's undeniable that, especially within the archetypical framework, he is very much a Jungian.
Obviously, he would admit that himself.
Yes, and I think he's not to discount other accreditations to Freud or anybody else, but I just go.
Freud arguably planted the seed, because obviously
Correct.
Freud and Jung worked together for several years.
I think almost close to a decade.
I don't know exactly how long. They eventually split because of Freud being weird.
Well, it was more than that, though.
More than that. I'm simplifying, but to a degree, it was Freud being weird.
I'll save that.
Jung
topic.
was like, I don't know what I can talk about.
we're going to revisit that because I think there's a lot more interest in that.
I don't use the explosive for some reason. I thought I was going to do that.
You're going to just start critiquing your own work. Like you.
Well, what else are we going to do? It's shameful in this. There's some periods it's like, really?
But
we were talking about Jordan Peterson, specifically those movies. Are you going to tie this back in, or were you hoping to just go off on another tangent?
No. I mean, my point is that when you get back to allowing
I think it barely does.
I think it's interesting that when you look at those types of movies, the reason that it resonates with us is because of the fact that those collective archetypes are there.
Well, and again, it comes back to
no matter what context you have, you can at least relate to it.
And that's, I mean, arguably you could argue that's why Lion King was one of Disney's greatest films ever. It's because it relied so heavily on archetypes that everyone could relate to it. The same thing with Beauty and the Beast, and it's the same, again, look at female romance novels. It's like that's...
Well, so then
as much as people would like to...
the question becomes, what did they fail on when they made it live action? Was it just unnecessary? Or like...
A, yes, of course, because everyone... A, the problem was... Or I suppose B, I've already said A. Everyone...
and then A.
It's like proper note-taking. Capital A and then little case A. Everyone remembers it. Everyone remembers Beauty and the Beast. So
yeah,
you can't escape the criticism of it, of the comparison. It's like everyone remembers this. Why are you remaking it? Because literally not a person alive hasn't seen it practically. And then I think I don't know. I honestly am not the person to discuss it because I am no film critic as much as I try to be a little more film savvy. Well, I think that one failed miserably. What you should watch, I'm going to recommend a channel we have in fact already watched or recommended at a previous video. But you should watch Lindsay Ellis talk about the reasons it doesn't work as well as a film. Because I actually really appreciate her channel.
Beauty and the Beast specifically?
Well, she does a lot of videos, but she does have a video on Beauty and the Beast that I think is a lot. She obviously is more of a film critique person. So her arguments are much better than I could make.
Lindsay who now?
Lindsay Ellis is the name.
Ellis.
So you should definitely check her video out. I might link to that one as well. I'm going to have to try and remember all the things I say I'm going to link to. But it's basically how it... The problem is it tries to insert to a degree a modern feminist take on something that isn't really compatible because it's a more archetypical thing and arguably
by
speaking,
definition, modern feminists resist that.
Yeah, it doesn't really work well with the feminine archetype, I suppose you could call it.
Well, I think that's fairly... It's a bit of a cultural zeitgeist at this point that the archetypes are so resistant.
You're the one playing because you just walked up to the balcony and looked over. I'm hiding. And you tried to punch him over the barister.
Well, I'm trying to think outside the box here.
Whoa! He did something to you?
They're so resisted, and I think it's a shame because really, it's just going to further exacerbate the shadow work that really must be done in our culture now in order to actually get to where we need to be.
I think people ought to accept archetypes because there's a reason that they are.
Well, and not also resist the fact that there's a degree of I won't even say there's a degree. It is truth that survival of the fittest.
That's not where I was going to go, but okay.
That as much as we don't like that because somehow our moral structure says, oh, we can't let people fall because that would be unfeeling and uncaring of us, but the point is there's a reason why I think you made that comment last time too. There's a reason why life becomes the best teacher in that regard is because
life definitely won't miss. I'm going to quote G.K. Chesterton.
Nature finds a way.
As if
my quote was a little less
academic. As if this video needed any more references to people that feminists don't like. I'm going to quote G.K. Chesterton in saying that modern or medieval man didn't care at all for being medieval, but modern man worries horribly about being modern. Which is people try to be like, there's almost this attitude that archetypes are like
inherently
or like
bad.
yeah, or almost
Again,
like
oppressive.
primordial, where it's like, oh, only the caveman lived by archetypes. Now we've evolved, and it's like we're trying too hard to outsmart our own like evolution. It's like we are, and I don't mean evolution in like in a biological sense. I mean cultural. It's like we're trying to outsmart our own natures.
Progress,
and it's like
yeah.
there you go. I'll come down to your level. I'll quote Alfred. Maybe it's time we stop trying to outsmart the truth and let it have its bloody day.
Let's have its day.
It's like, yeah, just let it acknowledge that we are the way we are and stop trying to fight it because people act like, oh, we should be better. And it's like, who says?
Well,
this is what we are.
Yeah, well, but I
Whoop,
think that
was
requires
a failed window
that
takedown.
requires a degree of mystic kind of understanding in that.
Mystic might not be the word.
Yeah, it is, because it's the whole divide of what happened with Jung and Freud is that the idea that Freud basically said nothing that is religious in nature at all can be contributory to a modern philosophical or even psychological thought, and that's like that's
I
not.
don't recall him saying those.
He
things.
was fairly staunch on that. That's one of the things that divided him and Jung, in fact. Because
I don't know enough about Freud. I know more about Jung in that case.
Well, Jung ended up moving into almost a parapsychology, arguably, and
I wouldn't call it that. It's still definitely a psychology.
Yes, it was. I'm just saying he also then looked into the supernatural and the.
Yes, but not in a. I don't think in a I still don't think the word mysticism is right, because it wasn't like he believed in it. He was curious as to what made people believe.
No, I'm
in it.
talking about an academic mystic,
Yes.
like people that are exploratory in those fields.
Sure,
is what I'm saying.
because it's of course again it comes down to archetypes.
Well, and it comes.
On what makes people believe in these
right?
things.
It's of note.
It's not that he himself believed in them.
Well, I also don't think that Jung had a problem with the fact that religious construct is a part of an archetype. I mean,
Yeah,
that
it's human nature.
Right.
All cultures develop a religion at some point.
I just think, science has come so far. They almost are so. Well, you see it so much in modern culture where we almost want to deny our history.
What we are really is anarcho-primitivists.
I wouldn't go that far.
We all should just be living in trees, naked as a jaybird.
I'm just saying we shouldn't deny our history and our
or
past.
our nature.
Well, exactly.
There you go. Should we talk
Food for
about
thought.
freeze? Should we talk about freeze a little bit after we've discussed this bizarre new topic at length?
Well, I wouldn't say at length.
Wow, it's been a little while. Whoa! What was that?
Oh,
That was weird.
is he?
We did do this fight several times because I forget what we were talking about. We were talking about something equally heady, and it caused us to screw up a lot.
I don't remember.
I think we were talking about. Well, we actually sort of got close to it again, where I think we were talking about how. I know we were.
You're gonna try to tie feminism back to the original discussion.
No. But we were.
We're like looking back at the notes.
We were
Where
harping.
did this come in?
I know for a fact we were harping on Disney, and even in the original. And I think we were talking about Apple too. I think we talked about brand loyalty and.
I remember Apple and the whole.
Because what we talked about is similar to the whole accept nature. Is also we talked about like we need to be okay with things ending.
Yes.
It's like why? Because I think we talked about that in relation to the Disney stuff, where it's like why.
Well, that's why I brought in Apple with the fact that passing on legacy is so critical to. And we gave Disney credit to say
They lasted,
at the very least.
I remember,
we
said they lasted longer than Apple did in terms of the death of the visionary.
Yes.
Because both companies were founded by visionaries, and we're getting shot at by pubes.
Ice pubes.
I've had some of them. Man, when you're out in the cold, it's hard.
Wow. It's the converse of swamp butt.
Ice pubes and swamp butt. They're opposites.
Polar opposites.
Polar opposites.
No pun intended.
Oh, anyways. We've derailed ourselves again.
Okay, back to Apple. Sorry.
Apple founded by Steve Jobs, and we even acknowledge, both of us who are currently PC people, that we were both Apple fans when Steve Jobs was around because he was a visionary. And in the same way, Walt Disney was a visionary, where it wasn't just... they weren't just making stuff that was cool, they were pushing boundaries in new and interesting ways.
Yes.
And I feel like both companies now
Leading industry.
are just making stuff that's cool, but it's not even cool in the literal sense. It's cool. It's like what they think will be cool.
Right, they're trying too hard to cater.
Yeah, they're trying to, and it's like, and it doesn't end up working. It's like they're trying too hard, and mostly what they're interested in is surviving.
Well,
Disney's making films because that's what they do. That's basically the reason. They're not making films because they want to. They're making films because it's what they do.
But
and Apple doesn't design new technology anymore. It's really just they go, yeah, we make computers and stuff.
Yeah.
It's not we are innovators. It's just we're a computer company.
But see, the minute you become
this was another failed attempt.
The minute you become a thermometer,
thermostat,
a thermometer and not a thermostat, you have a problem.
I don't think you used that analogy last time. That's an interesting one.
Because the issue is both Apple and Disney are now trying to pulse culture or sense culture rather than actually setting it.
Yeah. And they're now, especially the worst is in Disney's case where it's like now they're just remaking their old stuff. They're not even making new stuff. They're just making old stuff again.
Which is really tired.
Which is why we got to the point of saying, I think why we got to the point of arguing that all companies should die with their creators.
Yeah, I think you made that argument.
And I don't mean that. And I'm not to say that on like a government, like, oh, your creator's dead, time to shut down the company. I'm just saying, people. I think more of what we mean by that is people should be okay with things ending.
Yeah, if you have forced brand loyalty based, like for instance, Apple, I would argue definitely falls under this sin, and that is they almost stiff-armed or arm-twisted.
I have no clue what we're doing right now on the game front.
This is me playing again. They arm-twisted.
I did die. This probably is you.
They arm-twisted their clientele into using their products because at that point there was a little bit of sunk cost fallacy in it. It was like, well, now that I am an Apple user, I have to buy this thing, which then is this thing. It's the whole dongle thing. It's like, really? You're now just making up ways that I can pay you money.
They're selling you problems that they also sell the solutions
Exactly. For. Which becomes not... Again, it's not innovation. It's just... I laughed at that when
we
you
did
that too.
Yeah, I think that was one of those... Whoop! And you're not even hitting him! Is this you or is this me?
I don't know.
That was one of the weaker moves, but I remember the reason we did it is because you have to do I think you have to do most of your attacks because we're on hard mode. It's like you almost have to use every one of your possible attacks, which is why we pulled that one out. But yeah, I forget it was a good...
That was very succinct way of putting that together.
We were very cogent and really quite eloquent in what we said. I wish we could use that audio, but it was good stuff. Because basically what it all boiled down to is just things need to be okay with things ending. And that's not purely in companies. It's just companies are the greatest offenders.
Well, I think
because they seem to have this attitude that's like, well, we're around now, which means we have to make sure it never dies.
Yeah.
And then when you become more about staying alive than actually doing what you were supposed to, then it's like, well, now you're not what you were. Disney isn't doing what they used to do in terms of let's make new and interesting films because we're a creative studio.
Well, I mean, there's
let's
new
make
books
movies
out there
that make money because we need to make money. Well, that was I remember. Whoa, now that would have been a good thumbnail.
So there you go.
Yeah.
A pretty good distillation of what we had previously talked about. I
wouldn't call it a good distillation. I wish I could have remembered more because it was quite a good discussion.
I felt like that was good. You wrapped it up very
well. That's the spark notes.
Yeah, exactly.
Is things we need to be okay with things ending just as much as we need to be okay with being what we are.
There we go.
Well, yeah, we need to be okay with being what we are as people and as culture. And we also need to be okay with things ending because that's what we do as culture. We end.
I agree. I mean, you have to be honest with your own imperfections in order to move forward in progress. And if you can't, again, historically, if you cannot look to your past, then
you have
what are you gonna,
future.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that was a cool little pre-animation. Whoa, we spun him around. This is an awkward camera angle. You got to beat him up.
It's trying to.
We're just going to give him what for and then be like, I hope you've learned your lesson. Anyways.
Next time you talk to me like that.
Next time you'll get worse. Let's talk about old movies, because I like old movies.
I don't know that I've still
as I've been watching some as part of my ongoing film culture. didn't even duck. You're just like, aha. I think that was the point at which you made the Vulcan. I think this is me playing, and you made the Vulcan comment where you said because I was.
You got so concerned about his Vulcan eyes, you forgot about his Vulcan ears.
Because I was thinking he was following our footsteps, but I forgot he could still see. Because we were just standing right above him. And then we got onto Star Trek. Let's talk about Star Trek too.
Aha!
Because that's old.
That was an awfully good.
There you go.
segue.
From old movies to old TV shows. You clearly, since it was you who made that reference in the original, you're more of a Trekkie, I think, than I am. Because I wouldn't even call myself a Trekkie.
If I had to compare Star Wars between Star Wars and Star Trek,
we're not talking about
I would
Star
say,
Wars.
Well, that's the typical comparison: is Star Trek.
We
versus
could have
Star
gotten onto
Wars.
that later. You have to acknowledge whether or not you're a Trekkie first.
Nah, I would not call myself a Trekkie, only because I think that would be a disgrace to those that actually are nerds and handle Trek well, because I would not.
Well, because I have never seen even any of the original series, and clearly you have if you're making that reference.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
grew
saw
up
it once
watching
on
with my
TV, and I was like, whoa, this is old.
That was your only thought?
I was like 12 at the time. I didn't have much sense of of criticism. I was just like, dang, these effects suck.
Well, that is I suppose that's an apt statement.
We're gonna. I don't know.
The
only Star Trek I have seen.
The dialogue was good and the storyline was.
Yeah,
good.
see, then I never interacted with that. The only Star Trek I've ever watched is Next Generation, which I do enjoy, but even then, I'm not like, whoa, I love Next Generation. It's a little more
I don't
like
know that anybody feels that way about Next Generation.
I think you don't. No, Next Generation is one of the primary ones. Like, if you ask a person, that's why the whole Picard versus Kirk debate is a thing, is because those are, if you ask anyone who's a Trekkie what their favorite series is, it's like 50-50 Next Gen or original.
Versus, yeah.
Or, you might get a Deep Space Niner every now and then.
Well, this is why I say I wouldn't call myself a Trekkie, because I'm more of the original.
Because I haven't even seen the original or Deep Space Nine. I only know that they're common answers to the question.
Well,
but
Deep
I do
Space Nine is probably few and far between.
No, I feel like it's
got its own.
I think it's got its own fan group as much as Next Gen does, at least.
Maybe, I don't know.
I mean, I don't know much about the others. At least that's what I've heard from the people who consider themselves Trekkies that I've interacted with. But yeah, I would have to go Picard in answer to the classic question, just because I don't know enough of Kirk. But Patrick Stewart's hard to beat. You got to admit that. Patrick Stewart's pretty great.
Yeah.
You're going to qualify Patrick Stewart as being great?
It's not that he
This is sounding like qualification.
No, it's not that he wasn't great.
You don't think he was written well?
No, it's not even that. I think the nostalgia for me, because really it was something I did with my dad, and so it was a little bit like, well, now, no. Well,
but then that raises the question: did you even like the original, or was it just the memories? Are you really? Who are you really?
And that's a worthwhile question. I don't know that I would be able to answer that readily. I mean, I don't think I could either. I hope this isn't skitsy when I go to edit, because it's being skitsy when we're watching. That could just be the streaming to the TV. I hope it is. Well, there you go. Star Trek. We don't know enough about it to talk about it anymore. Now here's the reason. I may have flummoxed.
That's quite a
flummoxed my way.
That's quite a pronunciation. I flummoxed my way.
That almost came out negatively.
I think we talked about that hip. Didn't we talk about that hip X-ray too? We stared at it for a couple seconds. I don't know why there's a hip X-ray on the screen.
Didn't we talk about hip dysplasia, or was that a different one?
No, that was
scoliosis.
That was the previous. Dysplasia. That was the one with Ra's al Ghul's daughter.
Oh, Talia, that's right.
Yeah. I don't know how much more of this there is of this fight, because I don't necessarily want to go in.
That's actually her X-ray right there.
Yeah, they're going. She was in here going, "Help me, Freeze. I've got some kind of horrendous problem." Not sure why she thought Freeze could help, though. Technically, this isn't his lab. This is the police lab. And again, why was she here? I don't know. I don't exactly want to start another topic, because I have no clue how much is left on this video. So I don't want to start it and be like, that's it.
I feel like we ended with Freeze, didn't we?
We ended once we beat Freeze, but I don't know if this is that playthrough.
Because
we are at full health and he's at half health. This might be it.
Yeah, I think it was.
Well,
we keep coming back to this table.
Yeah, one
How
of those
am I
X-rays,
gonna-
man. It's
How
just
am I gonna dismember him after I'm done? Batman's not that dark.
well, not in this continuity. He's certainly been that dark before.
When?
We talked about the Batman Who Laughs, the evil version of Batman who's like freaky and psycho.
Did we?
Yeah, it was not at length because I haven't read the comics or watched any of it, but there is a whole comic continuity in which Batman is poisoned by the Joker and basically becomes a
yes,
Batman
you did.
version of the
Okay,
Joker.
yeah,
and
that's
it's,
right.
It's
I
terrifying.
remember that.
But yeah, well, you seem to be not convinced on the whole old film things. Is it just lack of
No.
experience?
It's
or
yeah.
is
That's what I was saying. I don't have enough. That's
we're
all.
pulling we're pulling the electric boogaloo again. I think
was,
this is the playthrough we win because I think we've only got one more hit on.
That's all
left.
I was saying was that I was not familiar enough with old films. I'd like to be. Like I would love to get back into some of the
I've been
really
doing it, and
older,
it's-
like classic stuff, black and white.
It's definitely interesting. I enjoy it because I don't tend to enjoy older films that try. It's a little bit like the Star Trek thing. Where it's like I don't necessarily love older stuff that tries to do things it can't. And I suppose I suppose that's more of I sort of grew up in an era
I feel
where
like
you
that's
sort of could.
retrospective, though.
Yeah, of course it is. I grew up in the prequels era where you could do just about anything with special effects. I mean, that's why. I don't know why I specifically chose the prequels to exemplify that, but that was my.
You're talking Star Wars at this
Yes,
point,
of course. Well, that's what everyone knows that when you say the prequels.
Well, I would agree, but just for those that are ignorant.
But it's why, to a degree, I'm gonna get stoned for saying this, but I actually enjoy the prequels sometimes more than the originals because I think the prequels could do what George was wanting more than the originals could because of the technology. And some people,
Even George would agree, though.
sadly,
He actually has agreed on.
Oh, of course. I'm not saying he wouldn't, but
On
a lot
the
of
film.
people would still be like, "So what, George?" There's a lot of people who don't like George anymore because of the prequels.
But that's dumb.
Yeah, it's sad, but then
You can't fault a man for his own creation. That's
kind of where I go. Clearly, you just don't like Star Wars
well, you all
because this is what he wanted it to be. You might think, well, I like the originals, but I don't like this. It's like, well, then you don't like Star Wars.
You're about to get testicular cancer again.
Testicular cancer, goodness.
Well, he's throwing off his
think
ice cubes.
He's got
He's got ice in his pubes.
Oh dear. Anyways, I find when older films try to do special effects and stuff that they really just don't have the technology for. Because I grew up in a time where there was that technology.
Yeah.
I can't get over the limitations where I go, this doesn't work because I've seen this done better. And of course, that's a product of my age.
But can you take that too far? Because
of course. Let me defend. I think we made this comparison last time, and you thought it was silly then too. But for example, a show that was, I think, of a very similar age as Star Trek, the original, is like the Andy Griffith Show, which I think was in the 60s. And you thought that was tonally different. But my point is that's, of course, the reason. It's completely different. Oh, we missed our takedown opportunity. It's completely different tonally, but it's still of the same age. But I think the reason I liked it is because it wasn't trying to do stuff that the technology couldn't support. It does what a lot of the old films that I do like do, which is they focus on things they can do well, like interpersonal stuff.
Yes, which is where writing and that kind of thing comes
those
back
kinds
into
of
it.
acting and writing can really shine where the special effects can't because it's just the technology wasn't there.
Then it begs the question, has it come too far in the perfect case in point, which would be The Hobbit, and the fact that...
I don't know how you're going to relate those again.
So, in Lord of the Rings, they actually did proper...
I think we're about to beat him.
Like, proper multiple thousands of people to do the armies and all that kind of stuff for those scenes. Whereas in The Hobbit, they did a lot of CGI, and you could tell.
Well, but those are not the problems with those films.
No, of course not.
We commented on the weird Joker hallucination we have. Because we've just beat Freeze, so we got to wrap up our topics before the video ends. But basically, I do enjoy a couple old movies like Casablanca's good. I actually quite like, as much as they're seasonal and not films you'd watch all the time. I really like White Christmas and It's a Wonderful Life. Those are, in fact, two of my three favorite Christmas movies. Those are two of them. The other one, of course, is Muppets Christmas Carol, which everyone should know.
Yes.
If that's not on your list, you're wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
But I like those kinds of movies because I think they can do those sort of older, because they were older films. They focus on things they could do, like interpersonal relation and the acting and stuff.
Yeah,
I think it's good.
You can't blame a person for trying to think a little bit further than what they could, though.
Yes, I don't want to criticize them too much for that, but I also have to admit that because it's not my age, I can't see past it sometimes.
Well, that's true for me in certain movies, like even with like Indiana Jones, that kind of thing, where there's a little bit of that.
I'm not gonna lie, I think we've talked about this before. I'm not as big a fan of the Indiana Jones either, just because I don't know why.
Yeah, they were a little bit like, really?
I like the first one all right, but even then, it's not my favorite. And the second one, I have not yet seen the third one.
Nora Fries, is that what it just said?
Nora Fries, that's his wife.
His
name is, he's German. We talked about this. That's how you pronounce Fries in German. Is spelled that way.
I was thinking it was like a commentary on what happened to her. I was like,
no.
Wow.
I think we're about to wrap up this video though. We're gonna level up. This was the point at which you talked about. You made fun of Freeze for his age when I just said, imagine getting beaten up by Batman.
Well,
you'd be doing that too. He's going there going, oh man, my spleen is hemorrhaging.
Making me sound like some sort of...
Whoop. Yep. That'll be it. So, wrap up. Old films can be good. Freeze isn't actually that old. Things need to die. And you should just be okay with it.